Well, now it's time to cross over now to the good vibes, where we look at stories of positivity and hope. And as usual, I have with me a wonderful panel. I have with me David Mudhoka and Mwangi Maina from our studios in Nairobi. If I may start with David Mudhoka, what were you working on?
Well, Mariam Macharo, I can hear you loud and clear. I hope that everything is good from the coastal side of the country. So this week I embarked on a story of a 31-year-old man. His name is Job Makori, a Nyamira resident. So what happened with Job? His tender age was one that had quite some difficulties. He juggled between home and school due to lack of school fees, and so he wasn't a stranger to a cruel world from a very tender age. And when 17 years old came knocking, and he had now sat his KCSE examination, at that time, you know, there was nobody there to tell him you have to go out there and hustle and fend for yourself. And that is what he exactly did. Traveled to Nairobi to meet and stay with a relative, but it's a story that you might have heard before with somebody else. He could not connect with the relatives, so he now had to stay on the streets for some 2 years before he could find his feet. But during that period, his passion and his thirst for education did not wane, and immediately he got fit to stand on. He's currently now pursuing a degree course in theology. We can take a look at that story. At just 17 years old, Job Makori was not a stranger to a cruel world. His family in Nyamira lived from hand to mouth, and his education until he sat his KCSE exam was marred by frequent dismissals over lack of school fees.
I used to struggle kwenda kulimia watu mahindi, kupalilia majani chai, kulimalima mashamba so that I can boost my education. So nikafanya hivyo. When I was about to do my Form 4 exams, pesa ikanikosa ya kufanya registration. Ndio one of my friends anaitwa Hezbon Mumanyi, a student then. I was a spiritual leader and Hezbon was my classmate. Akaona uchungu vile nataka kwenda nyumbani bila kuregister mtihani. So akaanza kupita katika kila darasa kuchanga shilingi 10 za wanafunzi.
But none of these experiences were a match for what awaited him once he set foot in the city under the sun in search for a manual job to sustain his university education ambitions.
Nikapanda gari executive Keroka, nikakuja nikashuka Chakanchir, nikakaa pale Chakanchir. There's one of my uncles ako hapa Nairobi. Unfortunately we could not connect, so ikabidi nimekaa. But at the night naenda nachukua gunia, naingia pale kichorochoro mahali Kenya mpya wanabeba saa hii, nalala. Asubuhi ikifika kama nimeona town imekuwa mbaya sana, nakuja Uhuru Park, nalala. Ona kama watu wengine wamelala saa hii.
With nowhere to go and without any specialized skills nor knowledge of what to do, the streets would become his new home and way of life until 2 years later when he found his feet once again.
I continued my life like that until one day nilipotembea mpaka Likoni Road, nikazunguka nikafika Lungalunga Road, nikaona kampuni moja imeandikwa Kajiam Good Works inafanya kazi ya mbao. Nikaona soja, nikaongea na soja akaniambia hapa unaweza pata kazi.
The 31-year-old father of one has since turned the stones life threw at him into a beacon of hope, having joined the University of Bugema in Kampala, Uganda. The second-year theology student's dream to become a scholar is alive and well. The staunch Seventh-day Adventist reveals he has been raising school fees through this motorbike as a bodaboda rider during holidays. He, however, admits putting food on his table, saving for school and fending for his young family with his motorbike has been a tightrope he has been forced to walk.
At the end of the day, I have a target of 2,000 shillings. The 500 I save for my education. The other 500 shillings I save for my rent. And another 500 shillings ni ya mahitaji yangu ya nyumba. That's how I survive. The 100 shillings yenye inabaki inaitwa hizi zingine miscellaneous.
Makori insists that he is just getting started, and if beating all odds is the only way to save his family from what he went through, then come what may, he is prepared to do whatever it takes. Now, juggling between the Koja bus stop during the day and Uhuru Park at night, this very park was the only solace for 31-year-old Job Makori for the 2 years he spent beat on the streets, and not a day did his thirst for education wane. David Muthoka, TV 47 at Uhuru Park, Nairobi.